Welcome back to episode 3 in my series on live performance effects. I'm going to show you very cool ways to make basic effects in Ableton Live really sing. In this tutorial, we're going to take the TR-8 and a very basic hi-hat and route it through Ableton Live, running on the Razor Blade using just a few basic Ableton effects. We're going to make this hi-hat really sing, get it some rhythm, get it some swing, and make it feel like a real live drummer. The standard 4-on-the-4 hat is super great. It backs up the kick drum really nicely and creates some high frequencies for those 4-on-the-floor rhythms. But it's really nice when it sweeps seamlessly between a straight ahead rhythm and something a little bit more funky with swing, just like a real drummer would do if they were opening up a hi-hat. So we can do this with a single knob by using just a few basic effects. The first and most important is a delay. A delay will take any straight, boring hat and make it more funky. We turn on a basic delay here with a synced value. You can already hear it changes it up and it makes it more interesting. What we want to do is slowly bring that in and out by mapping it to our decay knob. So as the hi-hat opens up, it also gets more rhythmic, just like a real drummer would do it. So we'll go ahead and use Control-M and map our decay knob to that guy, and we'll control the range a little bit. We don't want to go all the way up to 100%, maybe 50 or 60%, something that you can play with depending on your needs. Okay, that's good. That's sounding pretty good, but let's make these delays a little bit more funky and get it off of sync. So we're going to turn sync off and manually adjust the delay time so it's a little bit funkier. This is where you can get your own special sounds. Some really crazy swing there, or maybe something a little bit more straight. Yeah, let's try that. So now we have a pretty funky hi-hat that's getting a little bit more swung and a little bit more open. We need to give it some character. Because ultimately the other thing a drummer will typically do is they're opening up that hi-hat and they're playing a little bit more funky, is they might give it some more oomph. They might hit the hi-hat a little bit harder. It'll start to crunch and drive. So let's actually add just that, a basic overdrive right next to our other delay. And this is going to do some really interesting things and give it some grit. And what I want to do is have that overdrive sweep through the range as we open up the delay. Once again, hit Control-M to map it, and let's do the frequency range this time to the decay. And there we go. So now as our delay opens up, our drive sweeps. And it gets a lot more character. Now, one of the problems with this, as we saw in our last video, is that it's starting to get really crispy. The delay and the overdrive together are making the hi-hats very bright, and they're going to be too dominant in our mix. So we want to add a basic EQ and tone this thing down or take away as we add. Let's look at the frequency range and see what's happening. Right off the bat, one thing you'll notice is all this low-end information that's added when we introduce the overdrive. We don't want that. It's just going to clutter up the mix and complicate things with our kick drum. So the most obvious thing we want to do is a low shelf that slowly sweeps in as we add overdrive. Very simple. So all we have to do there is go ahead and hit Control-M and map our delay knob to that guy. And we'll take it up to about 300 Hertz. So that's just the low end. So we're cutting out all that crap down there. And at the same time, I want to cut out all this crap up here and sort of reduce some of that brightness. So we'll do the exact same thing, same knob, but this time we'll go from the top to the bottom as we increase that knob. So let's see what happens there. So the delay starts off fully open, all frequencies are together, and then as it opens, my knob kind of clamps down and it gets more narrow. Probably a little too much on that last one, so we'll go ahead and edit that range and maybe only take it down to 7K or so. Cool. You'll also notice that as I'm introducing this overdrive, I'm getting a lot of crazy frequencies right up here at about 8K. So what we can also do is reduce that gain. Let's use a different guy. Let's use this guy here. So you'll notice there's a lot of peaking resonance frequencies right here. It's crazy, it's super harsh. And if that was gone, the hi-hats would be so much more pleasant. But again, I only want that to increase and introduce as my delay gets more crazy. So I'm gonna go ahead and map my gain to that same knob so that the gain goes up as the knob increases. All right, cool. Let's do that guy there. And let's say it starts off at 0, and then it goes down to 15 dB. So it's decreasing. And now you've got 3 EQs all working at the same time, all dynamic. And we're getting delay rhythm without craziness. Now the final trick I would add to this chain that would make it really interesting is a compressor. Because to really make that hi-hat work like a drummer, you'd have the hi-hat working with the kick and the snare. All 3 work together, they're a unit. The easiest way to do that, of course, is a compressor. A compressor with a sidechain where it's being triggered from the drums. So you can see up here in my list, I've got my kick and my snare grouped together so I can sidechain something with them as a unit. Go back to our hat. So we have got a sidechain compressor here working. Let's hear how this sounds. Let's bring our threshold down. I'm going to change that delay value a little bit because I'm not loving it. Maybe let's go back just for the time being to a synced. It's a little bit more rhythmic. And let's get these guys really punching. There it is. So now it's bumping off of the kick and the snare. And let's hear it without the compressor and with it. So what would be cool is to actually not have that compressor on all the time, but only when that decay is fully open. So let's map it to the dry wet. So now we've got delay opening, the EQs coming down, clamping on those crazy frequencies, and the compressor kicking in at the very top of the range. So there you have it. We took a very simple downbeat delay and with some expressive controls, made it much more rhythmic throughout this range, all on a single knob, which I guarantee you will make music production and live performance significantly more fun and expressive at the same time. This is video 3 of a 4-part series. Watch the explanation video here or the other segments as they are published. The grand finale will be a live performance using all of these elements on my Facebook page, so make sure you follow me there.